So you're a police officer from. I mean, you're a former police officer from
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, Florida. And how long were you a police officer?
17 years.
17 years. So what was it like being a police officer in Jacksonville, Florida? Is it like that? Is that a predominantly black neighborhood or area?
There's an area called Springfield that's predominantly your black ghetto Latino area where, as they describe it, your bad area where you don't want to go.
And is that where you patrolled, or?
Yeah, it was called Zone 3 when I was there, and that was primarily my area where I patrolled.
And how long did you patrol that area?
The full 17 years I was on the job.
The full 17 years. So you were primarily dealing with black and Latino youth, and I guess just people who lived there, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So
as a matter of fact, what a lot of people don't know is when you watch a Jacksonville Jaguar game,
yeah,
if you notice, they will never, ever scan. You'll always see the bridge. You'll see two bridges in water. If you were to look at it from that bridge, you're one block from what's called the ghetto. They actually block off the streets, so you don't go that way if you left the football game. They don't want people driving through there because it just gives a bad image to Jacksonville, so they say.
So there's a stadium over there that is not too far from where the black and Latinos live, and they barricade that, they block off that area so no one can go over there. No one knows how close it is to the so-called ghetto.
Right, to the NFL games that come on. The NFL has requested. The NFL requested that be blocked off.
Wow.
And nothing's ever happened there to warrant that. It's not like some family drove through there, got jumped, murdered, shot at, or something to that effect. That's never even happened. Okay, this is just, they don't want to, in case maybe, well, we heard stories of.
And that's the same thing that I said to myself not too long ago. They always put stadiums in black and Latino or poor neighborhoods because what it does is that it causes so much traffic and congestion and takes up all the parking that white people don't want it in their neighborhood. So
correct.
So when they make these stadiums, they tell the residents, oh, the stadium is going to bring a lot of jobs. They make it look real nice and appealing, but what it really does is bring a lot of traffic, congestion, takes up all the parking, and that's the true reason they don't want to put it in so-called white neighborhoods.
Right, and that's I live in Boston now because that's originally where I'm from. I just happened to I came out of the Navy and I was in Jacksonville, and that's where I ended up as a police officer. But I'm back in Boston, which is where I'm from. And Gillette Stadium wanted to go to South Boston, which is predominantly a white Irish community. They were like, no, build up what you got the way you're at down in Foxborough, and you deal with it down there, and we're not letting you into Boston. And they didn't. That's why years ago they used to be called the Boston Patriots, and now they're called New England Patriots because they're no longer in Boston.
So,
excuse me.
What made you contact me?
I've been watching your videos for a while now on YouTube, and I sit there, and at first I was like, man, this guy's just trying to make a bad name for a lot of us cops and different things. And I'm looking, and I'm like, these aren't bits and pieces of videos. You catch the beginning, the middle, and the end. So there is none of that, well, we don't know what happened before this, and what happened before that. There is none of that. This is video that shows beginning, middle, and end, and what I'm seeing shouldn't be going on. One of the biggest things, I'm sure most of the guys who watch your show and stuff, was the guy who took the $1,300. That made news all over the place, and they still didn't do nothing to this guy.
The last video where I put up where one guy was stopped and searched, and then the second video I showed where the guy actually was stopped and searched and had money taken out of his pocket.
Right, he's a construction worker.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that made news everywhere. That construction worker guy, the $1,300 one, that guy made news everywhere. And nobody said anything about him going down. All he had to do was go down with his pay stub and give him his money back because they want him to shut up. They're trying to keep him on the DL. They don't want a black eye, they meaning the police.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not, they're going to make this poor guy wait. He's got bills to pay. He's got rent to pay.
Yeah.
He wasn't out there doing anything wrong. He was standing around.
And what other videos did you see?
I pretty much watched just about everything you have. I got it. I'm subscribed to your station, so every time something new comes up, and it's always the same thing. I remember seeing one where the guy literally just basically got beat down. There was at least 3 or 4 cops there on the sidewalk, and they were mad because somebody was videotaping it, which is 100% legal and legitimate. And it bothered me that, because of the brotherhood that these cops live by, and myself too.
Is that the is that the blue code of silence?
That thin blue line, that blue line that we all walk. And the problem with that is they're not going to go and do anything in front of somebody. But if you noticed, a lot of them just turned around and put their back to whatever was going on, saying that they were just trying to keep crowd control. There was no crowd to control. There was like 2 or 3 people. That was it. There was no crowd to control.
Phil, what's your nationality? What are you? What's your
I'm
race?
Italian.
Okay,
Italian.
So you classify yourself as
White.
As white. Okay. Just
White, yeah.
Just so my viewers know that you're a white police officer, former white police officer that used to work in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay, so we know your
Correct.
We know your nationality, and I really appreciate you you reaching out and telling your story. So you're no longer a police officer. Is that why you feel comfortable talking now?
Well, I would have felt compelled back then too if I had seen your videos back at that time. I got shot in the line of duty 7 times. It went through my vest, and I'm at a point now where I couldn't go back to work. So, hence the retirement on disability. But
and how did that happen? How did you get shot by where and by who?
I got shot we got told that there was supposed to be a drive-by, and we were looking for a specific car. And I guess it was my own fault because I was actually following the rules of, you're not supposed to pull anybody over unless you have probable cause. I'm not going to pull the guy over just because he's in the wrong side of town driving a 1972 Impala that's all decked out with the 22 rims and the, $11,000 paint job. That doesn't give me the right to pull that gentleman over. It gives me no right at all. I mean, and even if he swerved over a line, that wouldn't give me the right to do it because we all do that.
So is the person
that doesn't give me
the person that shot you was driving a nice car?
He was driving a real nice car. I would have loved to have had it. Let me tell you something. It was a 72 classic, beautiful, but that wasn't the kid who shot me. The kid who shot me, what happened was a lot of the gangs down there know that if 3 or 4 guys are in a car, they all know who, La Familia knows who the Crips have for cars, and, they all know who each other's cars. If they see a car and there's like 5 guys in it, they're going to run. If they see one car with 1 person in it, they're not going to run because they figure that's not a drive-by. What happened was the kid was in the trunk of the car.
Okay.
So when I finally followed him around for almost 30, 40 minutes, and finally his license plate clicked down, which was probable cause, when I walked up to the vehicle to ask for license and registration, I felt the trunk lid. We're supposed to walk up and touch the back of the car and feel for the trunk lid and leave our fingerprints on it, but I felt the trunk lid move. And when I did that, I went to the driver and I told him, I said, listen, your license plate's loose. If you got no paper on you, I'm going to let you go. And I made sure he heard that because I figured there was somebody under the trunk. But what I didn't figure was the guy was going to jump out of that and just unload a an AK-47 on me. I just didn't expect that. I got hit. I returned fire. And, the kid, unfortunately, was, 15 years old and he was killed. Did that bother me? Yeah. What bothered me more was people were trying to make it that white and black thing, and here it is. I'm one of the most level-headed guys you'll ever meet out there, and the only way that any of this shut up anybody was the fact that I got asked by Channel 12. They were like, did you shoot 12 times into that trunk because he was black? And I go, no, I shot 12 times into the trunk because he shot me 7 times. And she goes, are you sure it wasn't because he was black and you was white? And my girlfriend at the time, who was African American, spoke up and said, no, that isn't why he did that. He shot him because he was shot 7 times. The kid unloaded a 30-round clip at him. That's why. And after she saw who my girlfriend was, she shut up. But I still had to go through a bunch of stuff until people who actually knew me got the word out saying, nah, he's cool with us, man. Everything was okay. It wasn't like that. And until that happened, it was bad. I had more white people mad at me than I did black people.
Okay, so you was a cop for 17 years in Jacksonville, Florida until you got shot by this individual?
Yes.
In my opinion, I feel like that was a justified shooting because the young man was actually armed and your life was in immediate danger. You were being shot at and being shot.
Yeah, I got hit 7 times before I returned fire.
Yeah, but
I didn't return fire after the first few shots got hit my car. I didn't return fire at that time. I yelled at him to drop his weapon. But as we know, an AK-47 goes through the aluminum of a car, the metal of the car, and it hit me.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a cop, I mean, the second someone began to lift up a gun at me, I would have shot them. And like
he was 15 years old. I could see how young he was.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a 12-year-old. If somebody's trying to kill you, you have a right to defend your life. The whole thing with us people who are against police corruption, against racial profiling, against innocent people being stopped and frisked is that like we're looked upon as though we don't want police officers to defend themselves. We don't want police officers to go out there and stop crime. We do want police officers to go out there and protect people that need to be protected, and to also be able to protect their own lives. What we are against are innocent people being stopped and searched, having their rights violated, and things of that nature. A lot of times that people get it mixed up that, oh, we don't want police to do their job, which is not the truth. I feel that you were 110% justified in defending yourself and trying to protect your own life. Not only that, stopping an individual who probably had a at 15 years old, he shouldn't have had a what was that, an AK-47?
AK-47, yeah.
He shouldn't have had that weapon or any other type of weapon. So it's very regretful that you were injured. Thank God you're alive. And it's very regretful that a young teen who was probably brainwashed by gangster rap music and a culture that teaches him that that's the way to be, that's the way to grow up when you're a young black man living in that part of Florida.
Well, I'll tell you this much. There was some good news out of this. I went to the funeral, which was, I was ill-advised to do so. I was told not to. And I talked to the mother and asked her if it was okay if I attended, and she said absolutely. There was no problems when I went. I didn't go in uniform. I just went. Mm-hmm. And I told her, if there's anything I could do for you, please let me know. About 6 months later, I got a phone call from that woman, and her other son, who was at that time, he just turned 14, was starting to go into the gangs also. Mm-hmm. I actually worked with that young man, and I'm extremely happy to say he is a doctor at Jacksonville University Hospital in Jacksonville on 8th Street, right in the middle of the hood. He came back after he graduated Harvard University Medical School, okay? Mm-hmm. And he is a doctor. He went right back to Jacksonville and helped out, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying this to get any kind of pat on the back, but I didn't have any kids, so I took what I had saved up for if I ever had a son or whatever, a daughter. I had put money away for schooling. I actually used it for that young man to go to college and better his life. He had the grades before he got tied up with these gangs. So I know he had what it took. And I told him if he graduated with good enough grades to get to college, I would pay for college for him. And he looked at me and he goes, I've never trusted a man in my life, because he didn't have anybody in his life. He had all these coaches. Nobody took it upon themselves to help this young man out. He was an unbelievable athlete. He played 2 sports and lettered in them. He was an unbelievable sports athlete. And his own coaches didn't see anything wrong, didn't try to help him out or anything. And that's, I think, is a big problem, too. Nobody reaches out to these kids. I don't care what color they are. Nobody reaches out to any of these kids. And if they would, and these kids felt as though someone cared, because as soon as he realized if I said I was going to be somewhere, I was there. I helped him. If I said, hey, man, I'll be there on Friday to take you out on the boat, I was there on Friday to take him out on the boat. Do you know what I'm saying? And as soon as he trusted it and realized I wasn't going anywhere, his grades came back up. He did good. And now he's a doctor, dude. He's an emergency room physician.
Well,
I am so proud of that kid.
Yeah, well, he's probably one of the few kids that had a father figure. You became like a father figure to him, so he was able to do better. A lot of those young men that join gangs, unfortunately, their fathers are arrested by your coworkers at the time. So that's what happens.
True, and for a lot of it's for no reason. Yeah, I see it all the time.
Yeah, so
that's what aggravates me.
So if these young men were left with their fathers, and the father was given an opportunity to earn a living through legal, lawful means, then he would be there to nurture his child and watch his child grow and help him
exactly
and inspire him to become great things like a doctor, as you help this young individual.
Right.
But due to the fact that the police see young black men and Latinos as prey, as people that should be in prison, then
right. But you know what I don't understand, not to cut you off, is if law enforcement, it's okay, and I'm not trying to say I understand, because I don't. I'm not one of those people say, hey, man, I know where you're coming from, because I don't. Okay? I can get a feeling inside my gut when I see something that ain't right, and I know how that feels, because, it's like watching somebody on American Idol who thinks they can sing, and you go, somebody should have told them not to sing. You know that feeling you get? It's the same kind of feeling. You know something's wrong. Okay, and every person has that. Now, whether you want to turn away on it and not say something, or like you, get verbal with it and speak on it, but what has to happen is this guy's got it against him already. He's got one kid. He may not be living with the mother and the son, but he's trying to make it, trying to get a job, trying to do things right, and then all of a sudden he gets stopped and frisked for no reason at all, and he resists a little bit. Okay, and they're going to go, oh, well, we're putting you in jail. Now the guy's got paper on him. He's not going to be able to get a job, even though it was no big deal of what happened. They should have never done that, and now this guy's got paper on him, so the job that he did have, he probably doesn't have, because it's going to take a month or two to straighten all this crap out, so he's lost his job. Now he has to put down that he's been arrested, so that's going to make it even harder on the poor guy to even get a job as it is, and it's wrong. And it's dead wrong. As these videos show, people don't see what happens after that video stops. I'm telling you, I know what happens after that video stops.
What
Once
happens?
you get paper on you, you're screwed.
So even like a misdemeanor, or like what do they call it, like disorderly conduct and that type of stuff, that follows you your whole life?
It's an arrest. If you get arrested for it, it asks you on all this paperwork on. From now on, a lot of people ask. They don't ask you if you've been convicted. They do ask that too, but they'll say, "Have you ever been arrested of a crime?" For a crime, and then it says, "Have you been convicted of the crime?"
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if they see you've been arrested, they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, they don't want to hire you.
Right. Or if they do hire you, they're looking at you all the time.
That happens to me very often when I get stopped by the police. That one of the first questions they ask me is, "Have you ever been arrested?"
Because then they can ask the next question of, "Are you on parole or probation?" See, they're supposed to ask that question first. Are you on parole or probation? Because you have to answer that question, because that's part of your conditions of release. But if they ask you if you've been arrested before, you don't have to give your name. If you haven't done anything, you're walking down the street and they stop to frisk you, you do not have to give them your name. You haven't done a crime.
What if they lie? A lot of times they lie. They say you fit the description. We got a
Of
call.
what?
I,
Let's role play. You're the cop. I'm the guy on the corner.
okay.
I'll go through and give you answers for whatever you come up with, whatever you're gonna say. How's that?
Okay, that's fine. You're walking. I pull up to you. I say, hey
Yep.
you, hey you, come over here. Um,
Me?
yeah you. Get over here now.
Okay.
Where you going? Where you on your way to?
What did I do, officer?
Well, we just got a call saying that a young man in a white T-shirt and dark jeans just mugged a lady, and
Okay.
we came across you, and you're wearing the same clothes that and you fit
Okay.
the description.
And and knowing my name is gonna do that how? Did the lady know my name?
No, she doesn't know your name, but she just gave
Right.
a description of your
I
of your
just fit the
clothes.
description, which is like everybody else around here. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, but I mean they're not going to take that for an answer. At this point, they're saying, "Hey, you're part of an investigation. You're in the area.
Right.
A lady was
And then
just
they tell
mugged."
you they want to legally detain you
Yeah.
and just say, "Hey, are you arresting me?" They're allowed a short amount of time to legally detain you. They shouldn't be handcuffing you.
Yeah,
If there's
but-
that much of a threat, then they should be arresting you. This is where that whole problem comes in. A lot of people don't want to speak up because they think it's going to make it worse for them.
The thing is that these cops don't play by the rules.
Correct.
Everybody tells like black and Latinos, learn your rights, learn the laws. What nobody wants to admit is that the police lie. They'll claim that there was a call saying that there was a robbery or a store was just robbed or something, and that you fit the description.
Right.
That's the number one thing that they use all the time to get you to stop, to get you to produce ID, so they could put their hands on you, so they could search you. This is what they do. And
Right. And you don't have to produce that ID. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If they go in and automatically, the stop and frisk that they're doing is only supposed to be what's called a Terry Pat.
Yeah.
And that's only supposed to be to see if you have anything on you that is a danger to them, for their safety. So in other words, when they pat you down, if they feel a $25 bag of weed in your pocket, they cannot by law pull that out. Okay, it doesn't help you if they do pull it out and arrest you. Then you got to go to court and fight it. You've already been arrested. You already got paper on you, and you're already off the street. They're going to probably throw it out because it was illegal search and seizure, because it was more than the Terry Pat. The Terry Pat, if the guy feels what feels like a knife or a gun or something that could be a threat to him, but there's no way a $25 bag of weed feels like a threat.
Yeah.
It's soft. It's round.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything, but it's not going to be something that's going to blow you up or attack you. But I understand what you're saying. Nobody. That's what made me call you. I'm seeing it firsthand, and when I see that stuff go on in Jacksonville, I'll pull the officer aside and go, "Yo, you can't do that." And they go, "Whose side are you on?" I said, "I took an oath to be on the side of right. You're not right. Let this guy go. He hasn't done anything." Well, I pulled the bag of weed out of his pocket. You can't do that.
So
Just tell him to dump it out and go. And that's what we do, because you can't do that.
what has happened to you as a result of you telling police officers they can't violate an individual's rights?
To be honest with you, I didn't have any white friends on the department. All my friends were African American and Latino. That's where I fit in, because
And why is that?
they knew me. They knew what I stood for. They knew I wasn't going to put up with any crap.
Okay, so
And
how many
that's just the way it was.
how many white police officers were there opposed to black police officers in your precinct or department?
At that time, there was 800. I'd say probably
In your precinct? I'm not saying I'm not,
in the department. On the department,
okay, but you worked at a precinct? You were dispatched?
I worked Zone 3. That's the department I worked at. Jacksonville is the largest city in the country. We do 802 square miles
Okay.
as far as land area goes.
Okay, so go ahead.
We only have so many guys on a shift. So I mean, are you talking about the guys that I work with on my shift?
Yeah, on your shift.
well, that they were probably that everybody who worked in that area was predominantly either new, a rookie, which they send them into that area to learn quick, and then most of the white guys go out into different areas, but 90% of the cops that patrol that area are African American and Latino. I was the only one who didn't want to leave. I didn't want to go to Zone 2, Zone 3, Zone 4 and Zone 6 and all that. I didn't want to leave where I was. I enjoyed the people I was there with. I didn't find it to be as bad as everybody said it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. There were areas you went in, you had your hand on your gun when you went into certain places. You definitely had to watch out for certain areas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are those areas that you did that. But as far as just driving up to somebody and just pulling them over because of their color or because of what they were driving, I can honestly say in 17 years, I never did that.
Okay, but you're speaking for yourself. What about other officers?
Right.
You said you preferred to work with black officers opposed to white officers?
Well, it wasn't that way. It was just once they found out that I would yell at them or pull them aside to let the person go because they didn't do anything wrong, I kind of got blackballed. And then when the black officers and Latino officers found out why I was getting blackballed by the good old boys, I just kind of got taken in. You know what I mean? It was like I get a call from Cy or Silas, and they would be like, "Yo, man, we're going down. We're going fishing, man. You want to go with us?" Yeah. Well, why don't we just take my boat? Oh, okay, man. That's cool. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll meet you at your house. Okay.
Oh, all right.
And then the friendship developed. You know.
Who are the good old boys? Because I just want to be
just your
white officers.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a good thing, dude.
And when you say people will call you and say you want to go fishing, what does that mean?
Oh no, I'm just saying that just like Cy and Silas, that you were saying, how did I get in with? How did that happen? That I got associated with most of the black officers because they'd have days off and we'd be on the same color off. When I say color off, everybody's like a blue squad, a red squad, a green squad, and we were always in the red squad. So we'd always have our days off at the same time. So Cy, Silas, they were twins. They worked on the department. And, you know, a couple of the other guys, they'd call me up and go, "Hey, man, we're all going down fishing, man. You want to go? We're going to go off the pier." And I'm like, "Well, why don't we just take my boat, man? We can go out deep sea, you know?" "Oh, yeah, that's cool. Okay." And we all get out. They meet me at my house, and we go out.
Okay. Oh,
that's how that friendship started, with me kind of getting drawn in with mostly black and Latino officers because they knew what I was doing was right.
So they basically didn't see you as a racist as they seen the other officers.
Correct. And I didn't see them as a racist. I didn't see them. There was a couple of guys that were bad news, and we straightened that stuff out real quick.
All right.
But,
so basically, there's black and Latino officers on the Jacksonville police force, and they have to witness white police officers hunting their own people. And they're powerless against it.
Well, that's the reason that most of that Zone 3 area, that Springfield area, is patrolled by mostly black and Latino officers because that's what we request. We don't want to leave because if we do, they're going to put more of that good old boy in there, and then things are going to get bad. Right now, the group of guys that I hung with, the group of 5 or 6 guys, we would open our mouth. We did open our mouth.
And what happened?
There's not much they can say when there's 2 of us and 1 of them, and they don't want to start a bunch of crap when there's other people around. There's always somebody around. And when you pull somebody aside, if you're the guy standing there being detained, you know, and you see me pull another cop aside, and you can see there's a disagreement between us. You know something's going on. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, and afterwards I've had plenty of guys come up to me or if we go, "Yeah, man, you're okay. Why don't you go ahead and go?" They'd shake my hand and they'd give a dirty look to the other guy. And we were both white. But the people on the street know who the good guys and the bad guys are, even though they're wearing uniforms. Because there are good guys and bad guys.
So they know who the cool cops are, who aren't out there to treat them like crap, and then they know who the racists are, who are just like looking to bust their chops and make arrests and harass them.
Right. Exactly. I would get, I would get like, well, how come, there's not an actual, and they'll deny this all day long. There's no quota as far as what we have to hit for tickets. But if you fall below what you have been doing right along, they will ask you what's going on. They don't look at the sheet and find out. Yep.
Fall below what? When you say
fall below, let's say your numbers for the last 3 months, you've been writing 124 tickets.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden you drop down to 100 tickets. What's going on? Why aren't you, up to your 124 that you normally write? Well, Springfield is not on the highway. Well, 95 kind of goes through it, but you're not up on that highway patrolling. That's pretty much the FHP's job, not ours.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know what I mean? The tickets that I used to write were running stop signs, making a right on red when you're not supposed to, or left on red and not coming to a full stop first, which is a law in Florida. You can turn left on red if you're going from a one-way to a one-way.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people wouldn't stop and they'd granny through it. And, a lot of times I'd write warnings or whatever, but if you have to, they'll ask you, what's going on? Why are your tickets down from what they were last month? Well, I mean, you guys had us hunkering down on the projects. When am I supposed to go out and write a ticket for you? When would you like me to do that? You tell me to start sitting here and watching this project and look for something that's going on which is the stupidest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Do they not think we don't know? They don't know we're there? It's a big white car with blue lights on the top that says Jacksonville Sheriff's Office on the side. Well, now it actually says Police Department, but
yeah,
I mean, honestly, come on,
Yeah, we have the same thing going on here in New York City with the projects. We have like they have these big police watchtowers that are in front of all the projects. Then they have these big like spotlights, these floodlights. Must be like 1 million candlelight. I mean, just light up the night. And then you got
so they're like a prison?
Yes, it's like a prison. There's watchtowers just like you find in a prison outside the projects. They got these big giant floodlights, in case of prisoners.
Are you serious, dude?
In case a prisoner is gonna escape late at night, they got the big spotlights. Yeah, I mean they light up like daylight. They got scaffolding everywhere, so it looks dull and dreary.
This is in people's homes, in the projects.
Where people live. I mean, like their surroundings are made to look like a prison, so they don't aspire to be anything. And then you have the cops just stationed there.
No wonder people are oppressed and shit. I didn't know it was like that, dude. I honestly never. The most I've seen about New York and the areas you're talking about is what you see on TV. Like NYPD Blue and crap like that. I've never really been. I've been to the sites and the tours that they have in New York, but I've never been to the inner streets, which I would love to do. Trust me, I would love to go in and see all that stuff.
That show Rookie Blue, that's a 100% propaganda show. I mean, they're just trying to counteract what people like myself do, and just give you
Blue Bloods.
Oh yeah, they're Blue Bloods, and they had another one, Rookie Blue, I think. But yeah, those shows are all.
Oh, I remember that show. Yeah.
Those shows are all NYPD propaganda shows.
Well, I figured it out with NYPD Blue because of the way they always were very careful to tiptoe around the actual problems that have been going on. You know what I mean? They take a lot of their crap from the highlights, from the news.
I'm sure one of their writers are subscribed to my channel and gets his or her ideas from watching my videos, because basically everything I talk about ends up on that show. So yeah, I mean, so they have you sitting down like just watching the projects, and then at the end of the month, they say, what happened? Why are you falling short on writing tickets? So I mean, in my opinion, that's a quota, because they want you to meet a certain amount of numbers at the end of the month, or they call you in and start questioning you on.
But see, they're careful not to say you got to hit a certain amount of numbers. They'll ask you why you fell off from where you were.
Yeah, so
they're very careful on how they word it. Trust me.
Yeah, wordplay.
You know what I mean? And it's a tough thing to do. I mean, if you notice, at least where I am, there's you got corporals, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, you'll have an undersheriff, and then the sheriff, which would be like the police commissioner, if you will. The southern states are a little different the way they operate. And a sheriff's office usually handles the county. Like, it doesn't work for Jacksonville because Jacksonville is the county, but you've heard of Metro-Dade,
No, I
where
haven't.
Miami is?
No, but tell me about
Dade County is where Miami is. And Dade County also includes like Homestead, Jupiter, I'm missing a city, Miami, and I'm missing a city. I can't remember what it was. But those 4 cities are patrolled by the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Department. They patrol. It's like a mini state police, if you will. They're allowed to go anywhere in that county and patrol anything they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Just like the state police can go from, from Brooklyn, like in your area, they can go from Brooklyn to the Bronx, and they have arrest authority anywhere in the entire state of New York.
Yeah.
And it's in there. They're okay to arrest anybody within the county.
Oh, they have jurisdiction all throughout there.
Throughout the whole county. In other words, all 4 of those cities. And some counties house 5, 6, 7 cities. So you know what I mean. So it's not too good. But what happens is 90% of the sheriff's departments, and you can't quote me. When I left, I can say this for a fact: there were no black sheriffs. And I still think that's true right now. I can't swear to that because I haven't been down there. But I don't ever remember a black sheriff at all.
So the sheriffs have more authority, they have more power because they have more jurisdiction. They could go wherever they want and make arrests, right?
Anywhere within their county, yeah.
And primarily
So in other words, if the chief of police of Miami, Florida, right? They got the Miami Police Department. If the chief of Miami Police Department tries to buck up against the sheriff, he's going to lose because he's over that. He's over him.
Yeah. Even here in New York City, that's how it is. When you see like the low level, like the regular police officers, they're always black and Latinos. But when something really happens, when there's a crime scene, that's when you start to see the white detectives come out, all the people with the authority. Then they send the little uniform cops to go get coffee and donuts. They hire a lot of black and Latinos, but they don't have any power. They all have quotas, and they all have to do what they're told. So they really don't have a mind of their own. In fact, most of the time when you see them, they're always writing in their notepad, just being micromanaged. Everything they do, they have to write it down. So, I mean, after a while, it's like conditioning. When you're writing down every move, I don't really know what's in that notepad, but every time I see the rookies, they're always writing in the notepad. So I'm like, it's almost like being in school and having to do homework. Instead of being out there and being vigilant and looking around and focusing on protecting people, you have to be constantly...
Well, they're told to write everything down so they don't forget anything. The littlest thing could mean something. So when they're at a crime scene, they're writing everything they possibly can down, what they overhear someone say to somebody else. That's all they're doing. That's because that's what they're taught to do. But the problem is, when they come out of the academy, they're okay. They get tainted when they get paired up with whoever.
I'm not talking about crime scene. I'm just talking about when they're standing on the corner, supposing to be there to, protect the neighborhood. They're walking around writing in a notepad like every second. I've recorded it multiple times, and it's mostly the rookie cops, and then they're always eager to stop people and write tickets. I mean, they'll walk out into the street, stop cars at stop signs and stoplights, write them tickets. I mean, it's as though they're eager to write a certain amount of tickets so they could get a squad car. But
correct. They want to get off that foot patrol.
Yeah.
But see, that was the funny part about me. And I'll tell you a story. I used to park my car in Jacksonville. We had Main Street was the part that went right through Springfield, and it was 1st, 2nd, 3rd, all the way up to 55th and Main was pretty much Springfield. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would get my patrol car and I would go ahead and park it at 1st and Main. I would get out of my car and I would walk to 10th and Main. I would stop inside every store, every bodega, every place there. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Jose, how's everything going? How's the wife, the kids? Oh, everything's good, Phil. How you doing? I'm doing good, man. Everything all right?
Yeah.
Yep. Next door, next person. People would come up to me, little kids. Hey, Officer Phil, how you doing? Hey, I'm doing good, buddy. How's everything going? Yeah? And give up my little metal badges and all that kind of stuff for the kids. Then I'd cross over at 10th and go back down to my car. I'd get in my car, drive up to like 11th, and do the same thing up to 20th, come back down. I would do that all the way up to 55th in Maine. And the guys are like, "What are you doing? Why are you walking? You know, how else do you get to know the neighborhood if you don't get out there and walk with these guys?"
Yep.
You know what I mean? You don't know the person who owns that store. I mean, you might see him pulling the grate down at night, but that's all you do, and you give a little beep beep or, you know, whoop whoop on the siren, and you wave as you go by. What the hell is that? You see him pulling the grate down, you know he's got money on him, pull the fuck over. Walk him to his car. Does it really hurt?
Wow.
You know what I mean? I had a guy who used to walk almost 3 blocks to get to the bank, and he used to take his money with him at night. He didn't have a car. I used to go by almost every night I could get by there. And if I couldn't make it, I'd call him on the phone and say, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to make it tonight, buddy. I'm at a crime scene. I can't come." "Okay, no problem." But every night I'd pull up, I'd put him in the car, I'd take him down to the bank, let him deposit his money, and he'd walk home from there. Why does that hurt so much? How much did that take out of my time, my night?
Do you have other family in law enforcement?
Yeah, I got uncles and stuff up here.
Yeah, because what you do has been passed down to you. Normally, people that have a relationship with the community, or police officers that have a relationship with the community, this is like common in police officers whose fathers and uncles, and you know, they come from a long line of law enforcement, because this has to be taught to you. Nowadays, it's like any old person, any old kid out of high school, any old kid that used to get bullied. You know, his father was a garbage man. His father was worked in a pizza shop. Any old kid that just wants a little bit of power and authority and control over another human being, they join the force. It's not like you, where you have pride and you really want to be out there protecting and serving people. These people are just out there to extract respect out of people without doing anything to have earned it. You see what I'm saying? You're like a dying breed. You're pretty much extinct in this country today.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a police officer, especially when you're black, you're Latino, or you're simply poor. You see what I'm saying? Or you don't live in a rich, affluent area. They have absolutely no respect for you. So it's very rare when you come across a police officer that really just cares about your well-being. And this is something and this is how, like, it used to be way back in the days when like my mother used to tell me about how police officers were. Like, they all were a certain size, they were a certain height. They would say hello to you.
Yep.
I mean, they would wait at a red light just like everybody else. Now today, they just pull up to a red light, look both ways, and drive through like it was a stop sign. They don't even. I mean, they don't even care. Speeding around for no reason. Speeding just to go get donuts. I have it on tape. People like, they'll think some of the things I say is like I'm trying to poke fun at police officers, but these are things I've seen and recorded. I've seen cops go through 3-4 red lights just to go into Dunkin' Donuts. They have no respect for the law, but want everybody else to follow the law, and they make it bad for police officers who come from a long line of police officers and really care about the job. You know, so
And you know what's really funny about that red light thing, dude?
Yeah.
I've been at red lights, and I've had a couple of the guys say, "Hey, we're down at 10th and Main, Captain D's. You want to meet us down here?" "Yeah, I'm on my way." So I'll sit at a light, and do you know how many people I've actually caught or ended up getting a call that happened right in front of me because I was waiting at the light? You know what I mean? Because I did wait, I was able to get somebody who just committed a big crime, or they, you know, foot patrol, you know, where somebody yell out foot chase coming down 8th Street towards Main, and I'd be sitting at the light at 8th and Main.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because I take that extra second to sit at a light, I see what you're saying, because I see that, and that irks me more than anything. And I see that in every city I go to.
Yeah, they have it backwards. They feel like, you know, to them, they don't have to wait for red lights because it's like it's holding them up. Like, they should be trying to cover as much ground as possible, when in fact, just, you know, stopping at red lights and stopping at stop signs and not speeding around for no reason, they actually help more people, because they're moving more slowly. Number one, they're moving at the pace of a normal person, and they're able to observe more things. You know, like you just said, you've stopped more crimes and happen to be in the right place at the right time just by obeying the law yourself, instead of thinking that the law doesn't apply to you.
Well, now, see, when I had my 15 years in, get this one, 15 years in, I say to myself, okay, it's time to, I went and got my corporal stripes, and then I wanted to become a sergeant and then go up the line because, you know, I was getting ready to retire, and I wanted to retire at a decent amount of pay, you know, which we all do. And I struggled with that for a while because once you get to sergeant and after, you're not on the streets as much, and that bothered me that I was going to have to leave the street. But I said, you know, at least sergeant, I'll be okay. So I go in, I take the sergeant's exam, I pass, and they go ahead and tell me, you know, we're going to put you in, but, you know, you're going to have to toe the line. And I said, what do you mean? Well, you know, toe the line. I said, no, I don't know what you mean. Explain it to me. They said, well, you know, you're not going to be able to go out there and do what you're doing now. Well, what am I doing now? They said, well, you know, we know what's going on. You know, you're being one of those advocate people. And I said, so what's wrong with being an advocate for people? Well, that's not your job. You're supposed to go out there and, you know, stop crime. I said, well, in a way, by being an advocate, I'm stopping crime. He goes, yeah, I'm not too sure you're quite getting it. I said, no, I'm getting it. Trust me when I tell you, I'm getting it. Wow. But you know something? I'm all set. I don't want the promotion. I'm all set. I'm going to stay just like I am and keep doing what I'm doing. And I know that ain't going to make you happy. But you know something? I got to go home and sleep at night. And if I'm going to toe the line, I'm not going to be able to get any sleep. So I'm all set.
So they were willing to offer you a promotion just to take you off the street where you was basically stopping cops from doing bad things to people.
Pretty much in a nutshell, yeah. They called it an advocate. They told me I was being too much of an advocate, and they said, you know, this being a sergeant is going to pretty much take you off the street because you got a lot of paperwork, and you're going to have to start towing the line. But see, that wouldn't have worked well because I would have got myself in all kinds of trouble. Because if I see something wrong, I don't care if it's a cop, I don't care if it's a citizen, I don't care if you're black, white, purple, green, or blue. If you're doing something wrong, you're doing something wrong, period. And it was amazing how the people on the street didn't have a problem with it. They liked me. They knew that I was fair. If I arrested you, and I've even heard people talk, you know, I mean, I've actually heard conversations where people didn't know I happened to be just out in plain clothes walking around. And I've heard people actually say straight out, you got busted by Officer Phil? He goes, yeah, man, the motherfucker trumped up charges. And he goes, 3 or 4 guys were like, no, if he arrested you, you fucked up. And then the guy goes, well, yeah, maybe I did a little bit. No, you did a whole lot because he doesn't do that. Unless he got you dead to rights, he will not put them cuffs on you. You fucked up, man, and don't go around talking about him like that. I was in the back of the store smiling, and I felt so good. I got this big warm feeling because here it is, 3 or 4 street kids are sticking up for me. They don't even know I'm there, and they're telling this kid, no, you screwed up, dude. You messed up. If he put cuffs on you, you messed up. And that made me feel so good. You know what I mean? That everything I've been doing right along has been correct.
Why do you think so many cops are able to justify in their minds the things they do to the black, Latino, and the poor? How are they able to just write so many tickets, make arrests with no basis, and then just justify it in their mind as though they're somehow doing their job and going home to their families and saying, you know, acting like they're saving lives and all this type of stuff?
They're getting ahead.
They're getting ahead
just like anything else. No, not financial. Well, obviously those cops in New York were kind of doing it financially, but no, getting ahead. Well, actually, I guess you could say it was financially because then they'll get a rank and then they get more money. But they're doing it because, you know, well, he's doing it. It's almost no different than the corporate world. You know, if I do good here and I brown nose or I kiss ass here and do this and this and this, and I can still make it stick, then, you know, I get these brownie points, and after a while I'll be able to get my stripes, and then after that I'll go up for this, and then after that I'll go for that. And they work their way up the ladder or make detective or whatever it is that they want to do to make more money.
But how do they justify it in their head? I've heard road calls where police officers would go in there secretly and make recordings, and they would during the roll call they would say, we need more numbers. We need you to write more tickets. Go out there or we'll ship you someplace else. If you live somewhere, they'll tell you that you have to work far away from where you live as punishment.
Yeah, they'll send you out to Long Island or something. Yeah, no, I get it. It's just when they're saying numbers, it's just like I was telling you. They'll never use the word quota, and very rarely will you hear that word used. They'll say, "Hey man, how come your numbers are down from last month? You wrote 124 tickets. You wrote 100 this month. What happened? Why?"
Yeah,
And then it's like, I got so much more crap to worry about than you having me write tickets. I mean, but you can't say that because you'll get a couple of days off.
Definitely. But how do the cops justify? Like, what do they say? We're just going to do this, and then we're going to be able to retire at this time? Like, how do they do it? Do they say we're going to go into this specific area and make these arrests? Or, like, what's the game plan?
That call will come from brass. Brass will send it down. I don't know. It depends on how high up and what department you're in. I remember one time I actually called in sick because I wasn't doing it. I refused to do it.
To do what?
They said they were going in and they were going to round up a bunch of. They've been getting a lot of problems, and don't get me wrong, it was getting bad inside this 8th and Davis, and these projects were really bad. We would go in there on a call, and they would shoot our windows out. So it was getting to the point we couldn't even go in there to do anything. So, but there were citizens in there. There's regular people in there, good people, who don't have a choice about where they live because they applied for housing and that's where they stuck them. And if these gangbangers or whoever didn't like them, they'd burn their apartment and then they'd have to move them out. So now we had a bunch of apartments that were burned out. They were using them for crack halls, shoot up dens. And so they went in there with 3 buses and just pulled everybody in. Everybody they saw walking on the street, they got all but put in the bus, frisked, handcuffed, taken downtown, and then they sorted it out from there. I don't know exactly what happened because I didn't go. But the whole busing thing made a whole big news thing, and how can you go in there and just arrest everybody?
Everybody got arrested. They got criminal records just for being in that specific area.
They all got arrested because of that. They all got notices. They were all told to, if they were law-abiding citizens, to stay in your house and not come outside. There was going to be. They were tolerating no loitering of any type until they could get the situation under control.
So,
that's what they were told to do. They waited a week for that to go into effect, so everybody knew that as soon as dusk came, if you were on the street, you were going to get arrested.
So during your entire time as a police officer, have you ever came across a house where they were growing opium or growing marijuana inside an apartment or a house?
Oh yeah. I've meth labs, pretty much. I'd run across everything, but I think I ran across ice once. But everything else, the biggest thing that was coming up when I first got in the department was the whole crack thing started. That was crazy, and then just before I'd left, the heroin was starting to come in.
Yeah, but crack is derived from cocaine.
Coke,
right? And then where are they getting it from? It's obviously shipped into these neighborhoods. It doesn't seem like nobody's really trying to find out where it's originating from. They're just going after the end result. The little kid selling it in the street, to pay his bills or buy sneakers or what have you, because he's listening to the rap music and he's trying to be in the in crowd. Nobody's going.
Well, the problem is you can't follow it because we don't have. And I'm not trying to stick up for anybody. I'm just going to explain it to you. Once it's outside of Duval County, we can't figure out where it comes from because it's out of our jurisdiction. So we have to get FDLE, which is Florida Department of Law Enforcement, involved. And unless we got something to go on or somebody decides to rat somebody out,
so
it's not going to go any further than where it is. So the only choice you have is to clean up what you can find and constantly clean it up. And eventually, you're going to hope that you get someone who's stupid and not as careful as everybody else was. And because they're just getting into it, excuse me, if you wipe out a high-level guy who's dealing in, I don't know, like 10 keys a week, and you wipe him out, someone's got to step into his shoes. And he's not going to he's not going to know all the ins and outs to keep it secret, and he's going to start trusting people he shouldn't, start riding around in vehicles that he shouldn't be buying. He's getting out there wearing all the gold chains, buying the fancy cars, the nice clothes. And that's like, hey, look at me, look at me. And then he's going to get busted, and hopefully he'll turn. If he doesn't turn, then they wait, they arrest him, and then they get the next guy. There's always people stepping into those shoes, but the problem is the only people they got to go on is the kid who does, mom's not working, not able to work.
Yeah.
So the kid feels obligated. He's going to go out and try to sell, it's not necessarily crack, weed, whatever he's got to sell to make it work. You've got two kind of drug dealers out there. You got the guy who is trying to make money for the family, which that isn't that often, but it does happen. And then you got the guy who's trying to make money, make enough to supply his habit. That's why a lot of the upper-level drug dealers, you ever hear you can't get a monkey to sell bananas?
No,
Have you ever heard that?
I've never heard that phrase.
Okay, if you gave a monkey, and I'm not meaning that in a derogatory sense, I'm saying if you tell you get a real monkey from the zoo and give him a bunch of bananas and train him to go sell them, what is he really going to do with those bananas? He's going to eat them.
Eat them, yeah.
Right. So you can't get a monkey to sell bananas. So a lot of times these upper-level drug dealers are people who are not using.
Mm-hmm.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in other words, if you were an upper-level drug dealer, very rarely do you find those guys using. They might smoke a little weed, but they're not going to be doing the hardcore drugs that they're selling. But once they get down below, they're oppressing their own people too, because they know that, Bob is going to go out and sell drugs, and he's going to do it real hardcore because Bob needs to make enough to do for himself.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? So you oppress your own people to that point, and it sucks because you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, right now in Long Island, there's a real bad heroin epidemic, and
it's everywhere, bro.
And well, I mean, like even more so in Long Island, and you barely hear about it on the news. And it's not like they're trying to stop the source where it's coming from, but like they're coming up with all these solutions. Like they have some drug that they give people when they overdose to bring them back to life. They
Narcan.
have what's the name of it again? Say it again.
Narcan.
Yeah.
Narcan.
Okay, yeah, that they're supplying officers with to give overdose people that overdose, to
nasal.
Get them back so they won't die, and
it's like an EpiPen.
Yeah, like
exactly
for diabetics, yeah. So I mean,
an EpiPen is when you're allergic to have a shock, like if you're allergic to peanuts or something, bees, you give an EpiPen. It's the same idea, but it's called Narcan. It totally takes away their buzz long enough to get them to the hospital.
Yeah, so they come up with like all these little band-aids when they're not going after the problem. Where's it coming from? I mean, like when we look at Afghanistan, we see soldiers standing in fields of opium, and nobody's making the connection that once we went into Afghanistan, that's when heroin got very plentiful and got real cheap. And they're not really talking about it. They're just saying, okay, well, and they're even giving like pamphlets out showing people the proper way to inject heroin. Like there was a news report. I'm probably gonna put it in the video because I did another video on it where they
have you seen this new stuff?
What is it?
It's a cheaper form of heroin now. It's called gator skin.
No, I haven't heard of it.
What it does is depending upon who's making it, it's purely synthetic, and when you inject it, after like the third or fourth time you inject it. But after the first time, you're extremely hooked because it's extremely, ridiculously strong. And what happens is it starts eating your flesh, and you will actually end up losing a limb or something. But these guys are so drawn into that high, they're willing to take that risk. They don't care. And what happens is when it first starts to hit you, your skin looks like alligator skin. It dries up and it gets all scaly, like an alligator skin. And then that skin starts flaking off, and before you know it, you're down to your bone almost, and they got to amputate your arm or your leg or wherever you were shooting up from.
Is it illegal or legal?
It's highly illegal. It's
they
basically
outlawed it
yeah, load it in, see what you can get. I think it's called gator. I don't know. I think if you Google gator skin, you might get it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'd have to look.
I asked you that whether it was legal or illegal because they're doing the same thing here in New York where they have a synthetic marijuana that they
The
sell right
bath
out.
salts.
No,
Oh no, I know what you're talking about.
it's not bath salt, and I can't remember the name.
Molly.
No, it's not. It's not Molly, but it's a synthetic marijuana that they're selling in any little corner store or bodega, and I can't remember the name. A brother of mine, he did a video called "Failed Niggas," and he documented that people are buying this synthetic marijuana because it's legal. I mean, it's like an incense or something like that people are smoking because they don't want to run the risk of getting arrested for having marijuana, and it gives you the same effect. But they could buy it right out the store. If the cops stop you and you have it in your pocket, they can't arrest you because it's like an incense, but it has the same effects as marijuana. So it's like a synthetic marijuana, and I can't remember the name, but it's in the documentary on YouTube called "Failed Niggas," and it's just crazy that people are turning to all these alternatives because they get addicted and they need that same feeling, and just like what you said about the eating you alive with the gator skin. This synthetic marijuana has the same effect where it eats out your organs. It eats you out from the inside, and
Ooh.
and that's legal. It's in the stores right now. I don't know if they've outlawed it yet, but as far as this documentary was released about a month or two ago, people could walk right into any store and buy it. So that's what's going on. We're just getting flooded with drugs, and then people are finding alternatives to stay out of jail and still get high. And it's crazy. I mean, the bottom
Here
line,
it is. It's called Spice or K2, right?
K2.
I'm looking it up. K2, yeah.
You got it. K2.
Yeah, I looked it up.
That is the name. Thank you. And
yeah, no problem.
they're flooding our communities with drugs, and it's people are trying to escape reality. Nobody wants to face the real problems. Nobody wants to face the fact that everything's corrupt. Everything's about money. People are putting on uniforms for the wrong reasons. People are calling themselves public servants and politicians, and I mean, you name it. People are fighting wars for the wrong reasons. Nobody wants to face reality anymore, so people are turning to drugs. Instead of like people having discussions like what we're doing right now and trying to solve problems, with
right.
questions and answers, and you telling me your experiences as a law enforcement officers, which is, I mean, incredibly important. You see what I'm saying? The way I look at things is like what we're doing now is like a time capsule to the future. Even if we don't solve our problems right now, future generations might be like, okay, this is what they was going through. These two individuals are sitting talking, at this time about what they faced while they were alive. And maybe future generations might be able to solve the problems that we have now.
I hope it ain't going to take that long, man. I really do. But, that was the hardest part about being a cop, man, because you sit there and days go by, you'll be sitting there, and I'd be out there with my buddy Silas, and a few of the other guys, and we're all like, man, who here feels like you're beating your head against the wall? And they're like, man, we all got days like that, man. And then, they'll help you out and make you go through it, and they're like, and what I can't understand, and what I used to tell them was, if I feel like that, and I'm a white guy, how bad are you two feeling? Because this must really piss you off because it's happening to your people, man. I mean, I used to ask him that all the time. He's like, listen, man, he goes, we take it one day at a time. That's what my mother told me. That's what I live by. That's what I go by, man. I take it as it comes. And as long as I do the right thing during the day, the 24 hours that I got today, then I'll be able to sleep and get up and do it all again tomorrow. I said, well, I got you on the going to sleep part because that's what I'm totally into that too, That if I If I ever did anything wrong to somebody, I know I wouldn't be able to sleep that night. There's no way. And I don't understand how people can do it and go to sleep. I can't do it. If I wrong somebody, if it bothers me that much, I got to go back and apologize to it. It bothers me that much. I can't do it.
I guess they think like life on earth is it. Like once they die, it's all over. You know what I mean? Like we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So I mean, people are, they're just so attached to their worldly possession and worldly things, like what hurting somebody else could do for them for the here and now, and they're not thinking about eternity. You know that they might not
Yeah.
be able to live with themselves, you know, by destroying somebody else's life while they were alive. You know what I mean? And they got to really look at their mortality and realize they're not going to be alive forever, and what happens after you go. You know, you could. I mean, everybody has a choice. You could either help somebody or hurt somebody. You know, I wouldn't tell a police officer let somebody go if they've robbed somebody or they've injured somebody or hurt somebody. No, that person, you know, should be punished. But there's a lot of things that they don't have to do, but they do because it makes them look good to their superiors, and
Right.
that's what's wrong with a lot of I guess with the policing today is that police can benefit from the misery of others by making arrests and writing tickets, and that's wrong. You know, we should like the money should be taken out of policing. I want police to have nice things and be able to take care of their family and send their kids to school, but not at the expense of destroying somebody else's future. You know, that's not right, and that's the only thing I'm against. You know, but you know, all too often when we try to expose things that aren't right and things that shouldn't be, we're called like cop haters or you know things of that nature. Like we're anarchists and want you know we don't like law and order, which we do, and that's why we're bringing these things to people's attention. But they're gonna try to demonize us the best way they can, and try to justify them turning policing into profiting. You know, with these
Yeah.
big prison corporations that are making millions or billions a year incarcerating people. So I mean, these police officers, they're being used. The right police officers aren't being selected.
Well, if they did that, I don't think there'd be enough cops. I really don't. If they did try to select everybody who would be as open-minded or whatever, I don't think there'd be enough people out there. I don't think there's enough people who
I mean, you'd be
who
surprised.
think like I do or other cops do out there. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's bad. I'm just saying there's not a lot of people who think it through. You know, it's just not right. I mean,
Well, I mean,
I don't know, man.
it's something that's passed down. It's something that you have to have pride in. You know,
Right.
you want to make it's like a heritage or tradition where you take pride in the job. These people like a lot of criminals are becoming police officers who aren't on paper as criminals, but their behavior is criminal, and they're using the uniform and the badge to carry out criminality. You know, because
Right.
it's so easy for them to get in nowadays. I don't know what type of test that they have to take or, you know, what happens at the academy, but it just seems like they're taking any old person. You know what I mean? And that's why you have so much police brutality out there, so much corruption, and I mean, you just type in police brutality on YouTube, and I mean, more videos than you could watch pop up. And I
Right.
mean, it's just it's crazy. I mean, there's no standards. Um, there's no real like qualifications that they're looking for. They just take any old people. As long as you're willing to follow orders blindly, you could become a police officer.
Well, see, like I said, that's what hurt me. I wouldn't do it, and I didn't become sergeant. I mean, I just wouldn't do it. Not gonna do it.
And what do you think they wanted you to do?
They wanted me to toe the line, and whatever he meant by that, I mean, I can draw all kinds of conclusions to what that means. To me, it meant, get in line and do what we tell you to do, whether you like it or not, that type of deal. So,
And
you know what I mean?
and what do you like in your mind? What exactly do you think they wanted you to do? I mean, I know he could make any type of he could say, nah, I didn't mean that. I meant it like this. You know, that's what they'll always do. That's why they always use vague terms and get your numbers up and this and that, and they could say they meant anything by it. But all that really matters is how you perceive of what you perceived and what you understood it to mean to you. That's all that matters.
Right, but that's where I think this whole That's what I'm saying. I think they wanted me to stop doing what I was doing. I mean, I think they wanted me to stop.
And what's that? Like somebody 100 years from now is listening to you now. What is it that they want you to stop doing? You don't want them to have to figure it out or try to decipher it like hieroglyphics.
Right.
What is it that you feel that they want you to that you were doing on the streets that they want you to stop doing?
That good old fashioned police work where I wasn't, where I got out of my car and walked. That was actually addressed to me by, a couple of lieutenants. Why are you doing that? Why? It exactly came out was, to quote, why are you wasting your time with that? Why don't you just drive down the road, do your patrol. You got an area to patrol. I still patrol my area well within my time. I said, my arrests are higher than anybody else's as far as the ones that stick. I don't have the most arrests, but the ones that I make stick because
they're real
I make sure it's legitimate. Yeah. And I think there's a reason for that. You know what I mean? There's a lot of guys who do that otherwise. I think they just wanted me to do what they wanted me. They wanted me to become, for lack of a better word, a soldier. They wanted me to just, yes, sir. Okay. Yep. You want me to do that? Okay. So just basically what he was doing to me, asking me about my numbers and things like that, he wanted me to do that for other people. I don't care why your numbers are low. There shouldn't be numbers. If you didn't write tickets, you didn't write tickets. I mean, I get it. I understand why they want it done, for revenue, and that's what buys us our guns and our badges and all that. Our guns, our badges, our uniforms, our police cars and all that stuff. There's a good part of that money, because it comes back into the city government, that they need that money because the city isn't giving it to them. But that doesn't mean it's right. And that's what I think they wanted. They just wanted me to be a yes man. I guess that would be the best way to do it.
These store owners, that you would stop and ask, how's everything going, and walk to their car. What race were they?
I'd say probably 90% were black and Latino. And out of that 10% left over, I'd say there was a mixture of Indian, or Pakistan, or, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to label anything, but the guy who owns the 7-Eleven happens to be Pakistan, and the other guy was Indian and whatever. But I mean, I'd say they're probably 2% white.
Primarily non-white. These people that...
Yeah, the only ones that were white were the liquor store owners, believe that or not.
Yeah, I believe that. In the black community, they're going to sell people liquor so they can lose their mind and commit crime. But primarily everybody was non-white, and your higher ups had a problem with you making these black and Latino and others feel safe. They had a problem with that.
Correct.
Wow, that says a lot. I mean,
they just told me to, why are you wasting your time? You can ride by, wait, beep the horn. I said, yeah, but if I do that, then I would have never known that, Faoud has a wife and 3 kids, and, she's got cancer, and, I would have never known all these things about these people. And that's a good thing to know. You know what I mean? There was one time Faoud was he got robbed one night. He was getting robbed, and it was as I was going around. I walked in, and I said, hey, man, how you doing? He goes, oh, I'm doing good. Everything's good. I said, okay. I said, did my cigars come in? Because I order a certain type of cigar, the Onyx. They're expensive, but he gets them for a good deal. I mean, he gets like probably 50 cents cheaper than I could get anywhere else.
Okay.
And he goes, no, they didn't come in. And so I get to the register, and I go to pay him for the coffee, and I got a bag of chips. And he goes, don't worry about it. Everything's good. Now, he knows I pay for my coffee, and whatever I get, I pay for. I don't take nothing from anybody. Once in a while, there's an old guy I can't argue with. I have to take the coffee. There's no arguing with him. He won't take the money. So I always put the money in a jar that he's usually got up there for something in the neighborhood or whatever. So I always put it in there. But you can't argue with him. He will not take it. But when he said, don't worry about it, right then and there, I knew something was wrong. I said, all right, man, I'll talk to you later. And I gave him a little eye like I knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I get out to my car. I got outside, rather, and I radioed for backup. My car was down the street a little ways. And I waited in the alley between the buildings because I didn't know if he was going to come out the back door or the front door. You know what I mean? The side door. And I didn't want to go in there because I didn't know where they were, so I didn't know, what to do. So I'm looking through the glass, and I see him coming towards the front, and I grab him as soon as he comes out.
Wow.
Made the arrest, and when the lieutenant who was talking to me before about why do I stop, I handed him off to the wagon guy, and I said to the lieutenant, I said, hey, over here, Lieutenant? He goes, yeah. I said, remember that question you asked me? Why do I walk up and down? Why don't I just toot and wave? He goes, yeah. That's why. If I tooted and waved, we would have got that call after the robbery.
Or after he was dead.
Yeah, after something.
I mean, I think every police officer should hear this, because this is real police training. Having a relationship with people in the community, store owners, residents. This is what real policing is about, getting to know people, not just staring them up and down like when they look at you, giving them mean looks. Some of these police officers look like, they might as well be RoboCop.
But it's hard getting them to do it. It's hard because you know what it is?
Yeah.
These kids that are coming up to be cops now, these kids were all playing video games, and after that they're doing texting and chatting and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
They don't make eye contact with people to begin with.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're going to ask them to make eye contact with people. When I grew up, I'd get a dakara right upside the head if I didn't look at somebody I was talking to. My grandfather would just, boom, right upside the head. You look at who you're talking to.
Yeah.
That's total respect. And I said, okay, I got you, Gramps. And everybody I talked to, I looked them dead in the eye. And when you're talking to people, sometimes they're looking everywhere else. And, hey, listen, I'm giving you the respect to look at you when I'm talking to you. You look at me. You know what I mean? So these kids are brought up right now. My nieces do it.
Yeah.
They sit there and they're in the car together, sitting next to each other, and they won't talk. They text to each other, and they're sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
So communication is being lost amongst all these kids that are being brought up now. They don't know how to talk. I don't know how they're going to find jobs later on in life. They have to go and learn to talk to somebody.
That's just one of the dangers of a technological society. Everybody's into their smartphone, and and they're not that smart themselves.
Yeah.
I
you know what I mean? They don't do it. Everybody's, even in school, the teachers are like, well, yeah, it's there. Or, one day, just to shits and giggles to see how it would work out, my niece goes, Uncle Phil, what's the number to such and such, or what's the number to the pizza place down the street? And because when they're at my house, I take away their phones because they're there to see me, and while they're there to see me, they are going to see me. So I gave them the phone book. What's this? It's a phone book. They didn't know how to use the phone book. How much does that take to use? Because you know what it is? They go on their phone and they go, pizza, and bam, it comes up. They don't have to know anything. They don't have to know anything. There's nothing you have to know because, for instance, you got a smartphone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How many phone numbers, without looking in your smartphone, do you know right now off the top of your head? If I said, what's Billy's number? Do you know it off the top of your head?
Not at all.
Probably not.
Nope.
Huh? Right.
Nope.
When you were a kid, how many of your friends in the neighborhood did you know their phone number to?
Yeah, I remember I knew them all by heart.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's now, you can count, if it's somebody I don't always talk to or whatever, I'll put their number in my phone book. But if it's somebody I know, I don't put anything in that phone.
Yeah.
Because I know it. And if something happens to my phone, I don't want to be sitting there with my thumb up my butt going, Jesus, what do I do? What can I don't have my phone. Jesus, I know numbers in my head. And I don't like this whole way things are going because people just don't. There's no communication, and that's going to make the fight that I'm trying to fight and the fight that you're trying to fight even more difficult. Good.
And another thing is that white and black and Latino cops, or white and minority cops, they see themselves as totally different. At the end of the day,
Yep.
they go to their neighborhood, which is far, which is not the neighborhood that they patrol, and the
Nope.
black and Latino officers, they go to their neighborhoods, and like the only time they come together is when they're in uniform. That's the only time they see each other as human beings. Other than that, it's like
Correct.
once they're in plain clothes, they're just another potential perp or something like that.